Welcome to Central News. I'm Hilary Entwistle. Two University of Waikato science and engineering students have been awarded the 2013 National Agricultural Field Day scholarships. The New Zealand National Field Day Society funds the university's New Zealand National Agricultural Field Days Sir Don Llewellyn scholarship worth $22,000. Each student has received a half share of the scholarship. Masters student Nadia Loebscher has been awarded the scholarship to help her study why flip soils are better for pasture production than undisturbed soils. Nadia splits the scholarship with PhD student Talia Hicks, who is working with Dr. Johan Verbeek on decolouring blood meal bioplastic and the complications this has on the manufacturing process. Talia says when blood meal plastic is ready to be manufactured, it could possibly be compostable.
We've done some short-term studies showing that blood meal plastic is compostable and that it'll also sort of break down under UV and weathering conditions. So yes, it does break down under if you threw it outside, it would break down. And not only that, but it would provide some basic nutrients like nitrogen back to the plant life around them. So yeah.
Sir Gordon Tietjens hasn't had much time to reflect on his knighthood as he gets ready to announce his 12-man squad for the Rugby Sevens World Cup in Moscow. Sir Gordon is tasked with the tough process of cutting his training squad of 20 down to just 12 ahead of team selection. Sir Gordon expects a challenge in Moscow and says there are no easy games when it comes to the World Cup, which starts on June the 28th. As for knighthood, Sir Gordon says the last few days have been hectic, receiving messages from friends and family, but he remains humbled and says that it's not just about recognising him. Now for our region's weather for the weekend, Hamilton, your Saturday will be fine in the morning with frost and then the cloud will increase. Your expected high is 15 and an overnight low of 9. Saturday for you, Tauranga, a few showers developing, winds 10 to the northeast. Your expected high is 16 and an overnight low of 11. Hamilton, your Sunday will be cloudy with a little rain developing throughout the day. Your expected high is 14 and an overnight low of a very chilly 4. Sunday for you, Tauranga, a few showers and they're turning into rain with a northeast freshening. Your expected high is 16 and an overnight low of a little warmer than Hamilton and 8. Just ahead, some locals walking for awareness. Welcome to Central News on TV Central. Motor neuron disease is when nerve cells or neurons controlling the muscles that enable people to move, speak, breathe and swallow undergo degeneration and die. This Sunday, some Tauranga locals have organised a walk to defeat motor neuron disease. Lynn, what are you doing for the awareness walk?
We're going to walk from Memorial Park to the Strand and back, and we hope to have the Dalek there on a lovely fine day. He's been to Armageddon and is very popular, so hopefully he will collect a lot of money for us.
So Graham, what is motor neuron disease?
Motor neuron disease is a condition whereby messages which come from the brain or the spinal column no longer get to the muscles in the body or the vocal cords. And when these messages degenerate or don't get through, there's muscle wastage and lack of ability to speak or to swallow.
How does it affect someone's everyday life?
Generally, when people are diagnosed, they either have a foot drop or impaired ability to speak or swallow. Generally, over a period of time, these debilitating issues increase. They either end up in a wheelchair, unable to swallow, and the progress of the disease is between 2 and 4 years. It is a terminal situation, and some people are known to live longer, but generally it's a terminal situation of between 2 to 4 years.
And is there any treatment?
There's no treatment at the moment, nothing that will alleviate the condition or prolong life. So the world situation at this point in time, yes, there's no cure whatsoever.
Now this is the first time that you guys are having this awareness walk in the Bay. What made you want to do this?
Well, we've been wanting to raise money and we've usually sat outside supermarkets, but this way we are actually putting it out there more, and people will be aware if we're walking as a group. And also it is money funding because people have got to register and pay to come in, which is great. I mean, they can walk anyway, that's fine. Yeah, mainly for the awareness out there.
Well, thank you very much to the both of you, and now we're going to meet with one of the founders of MND Bay of Plenty. Janet, why did you decide to start this not-for-profit group?
When Jeff was diagnosed, we researched and tried to find some help, to sort of try to reach out and see how we were going to manage this, and there was nothing, so we advertised on the radio and got a few people together. And then after Jeff died, I was in a position I had time to put into doing all the legwork of setting up a group.
Paula, what are you hoping will come from this awareness walk?
More awareness from the public. I think when someone's diagnosed, a lot of people don't know what motor neuron disease is. So awareness, and to raise funds so that we can help support our field worker who's out helping people with the disease at the moment.
Now, Janet, you lost your husband 15 years ago. Can you tell us about that experience?
Well, it was shocking, of course. It blindsides you. It's something that you never expect. And we just had a baby, so he was only 5 weeks old. So the implications sort of come flooding in, and you wonder how you're going to get through it. But you do. Lots of people get through lots of things.
And Paula, you lost your husband just over a year ago. Tell us about that experience.
I'd also lost a workmate to motor neuron disease, and our treasurer, it was her sister. So my husband and I had seen what had happened to her. So the minute he had his diagnosis, he knew what was happening. And it was just awful, the worst thing you want to hear, really. It's not, you can't fight it, there's no cure, so you know you're going to die, and it's just the most dreadful thing ever for anyone who's involved.
And what was everyday life like?
Everyday life was pretty hectic with someone learning to walk. Our son was still only little, and Jeff was unlearning to walk and talk, so there was only about, I think, a couple of weeks when they could actually walk at the same time. Looking after somebody else's needs and your own is a lot of work, 24/7. You really need a genie in the cupboard that you can just, pull out when you need her and put away again.
And tell us about the book that he wrote.
He wanted to be a journalist. I think he wanted to be a sports journalist, and it was something he never pursued. So he decided he was going to write a book about MND with his big toe in the end, and that's what he did. He achieved, one of his goals before he died.
And what was everyday life for you and your husband?
Changed a lot. I had to learn how to change our diet so that he could eat while he was still able to eat soft foods, and then eventually when he couldn't eat, it was very difficult when you needed to eat. Did you eat in front of him or did you eat in secret? Had to learn how to administer medications and deal with all of the equipment coming and going. Your house turns into a bit of a hospital room because you need all this equipment to be able to look after them. It was difficult for our daughter, who was only 9 at the time, seeing her dad go through that. He was a big, burly, strong, fishing, golfing man, and all of a sudden he's turned into, an old skeletal man who could no longer eat, and then at the end couldn't breathe for himself.
To register for this event, visit walk2d, that's the letter D, feet.wordpress.com. And they are meeting at Memorial Park in Tauranga on Sunday at 11 a.m. Just ahead, the National Council of Women. Welcome back. After 58 years of serving the women and families of the Matamata area, the Matamata branch of the National Council of Women is facing closure owing to a lack of support, especially from younger women. Here with me tonight is Anne and Catherine of the National Council of Women. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you.
Now, Anne, tell us a little bit about history about the National Council of Women.
The National Council of Women was founded in 1896 by Kate Shepherd and her fellow suffragists 3 years after women won the vote in New Zealand. So it's been going for 117 years. Over that time, it's won many rights for women. One of the first things it sent for was equal pay for equal work. And now we're looking for equal pay for work of equal value. There is a difference. Women having the right to have control of their families if their husband died. In 1896, if a husband died, the closest male relative was the one who had guardianship of the children, not the mother. And there are just dozens and dozens. The right to stand for Parliament, the right to stand for the council, the right to be the mayor of the local council, and so it goes on. So National Council of Women has quietly worked away to win a lot of rights for women over those 117 years. In 1950, they actually proposed a nuclear-free South Pacific. 30 years before we started fighting for it. So, yes.
Wow. So what is the actual aim of the National Council of Women?
Mind if I read this, because I always get it wrong. Its aim is to serve the women and families and the community through study, discussion and action at local, national and international level. And our branch and National Council of Women nationally does do all of those things.
So can you tell us a little bit about the local branch here in Matamata?
Well, Matamata branch was founded 58 years ago. In 1955, they had a meeting and it was attended by something like 40 or 50 women, I understand. And most of the women's organisations at that time sent a delegate. Over the years, it's just got a little bit smaller. A lot of women's organisations have left or no longer exist, and so they've worked quietly through that time. Some of the things they've done, SeniorNet, it was an initiative of National Council of Women.
We set up a cup
Yes, you set up the cup for
the high school for a prize giving for leadership. It's called the Suffrage Cup.
And also Meals on Wheels was a National Council of Women initiative at its beginning 50 years ago. And at one stage we also had a postal box that you could post letters from the car from. I don't think that has continued because there's no longer a need for it.
No, not with email. So what does this branch do for local women?
It gives local women a voice, and it's quite unique. That's really not, those words don't go together. It is unique in being one of the very last rural branches because of the membership dwindling on all kinds of things. People just don't join things these days. And so rural branches have folded all over New Zealand, and we are one of the last, and it's amazing. I'm a townie, and I've only lived here for less than 10 years, and you'd be astonished the difference between the urban opinion and the rural opinion about all kinds of things, about paid parental leave, about, well, you just name it, and there's a rural viewpoint that doesn't get heard unless a branch like ours is still in existence. So that's one of the things that we do for the local women and the local families and the community.
Because women's rights have come a long way since 1896 from that first initial council. Is there still a need?
Absolutely. There is an income gap between men and women, taking into account all kinds of things like taking time out to have children and those sorts of things. There's still between 12 and 14% gap in income. I heard a story the other day, apocryphal of course, but this is an example of it. More women generally graduate from university. They graduate with higher honors. They start their work at lower salaries than men. And an example of that is a woman was working in a law firm and doing really good work and getting lots of praise, and then a younger man was hired, and she found out, I'm not sure how, that he was on $10,000 more a year than her. His qualifications weren't as good, and so she questioned it, and they said it's none of her business. I know. Does that make you want to grind your teeth? Do we have work to do? I think so. I think we have work to do, and that happens all over the place. And it's more now because we don't have collective bargaining so much, because the unions have been kneecapped, and we don't. It's kind of a secret how much you get paid, particularly in those higher salaries. You're supposed to say, yes, I'll take this money and I won't tell anybody what I get, so that they don't have to give pay parity to anybody they don't want to give pay parity to. And very often it's the women who work in whatever firm you're talking about. So we have work to do. We definitely do.
And that's where we go with equal pay for work of equal value.
Yeah.
We pay our mechanics $25 an hour to look after our car, yet we will only pay our early child workers $13.75 an hour to look after our children. The same goes for people, the women who are looking after our elderly. Do we actually value our cars more than we value our children and our elderly?
Actually, I've read somewhere that the skill set for looking after people in an old folks' home, which requires physical strength as well as the caregiving that goes on, is the skill set is very similar to prison guards. Prison guards are paid double and sometimes triple what rest home workers are paid. Prison guards are men, hello. Rest home workers are mostly women, and they're mostly looking after women. So this is all about there's more to do.
Well, thank you very much, ladies. It's definitely made me think about joining. The next meeting is on June the 10th at 1 p.m. in the Presbyterian Church here in Matamata. And you can let Anne know you're interested in becoming a member. Coming up next, Arthur Dagley's last pieces to go under the hammer. If you have just joined us, welcome to Central News. Over 100 paintings by revered Tauranga artist, the late Arthur Dagley, will soon be auctioned at Bay Court. The last time such a large collection of his work will ever go on sale. The one-off estate auction on Monday the 10th of June is being organised by Fine Arts Society New Zealand on behalf of the artist estate. What artworks of Arthur will be on auction?
There's quite a good range of his artwork, really. These are paintings that were left in the family estate, and there's some very minor works, small works, to some major port paintings. So the prices on them vary from $300 to $400 up to $14,000, and they might even go more, of course, on the night. There will be some bargains, but there could be some big prices, hopefully.
How would you describe Arthur's style of work?
Well, various styles, really. His port theme ones, the ones that seem to be the most recognisable of Arthur's paintings, and probably the more important ones, perhaps. And most of his paintings are abstracted, but they are realism. You can tell what it is. It's an abstraction of something that you can understand. They're not purely abstract paintings. His figurative paintings are different again, and they're more caricature paintings than actual formal portraits. They're more commentary on the people rather than a portrayal of that person. It's more about the character rather than the person's looks.
Arthur was largely self-taught, but he did have a little bit of tuition from some pretty famous names. Tell us about that.
He did. I think he admired the work of a lot of different artists for different reasons and times. Some of them have influenced his work. He did a lot of summer schools and short courses with artists. He did Colin McCann was one of them, more important ones. Rudy Gopaz in Christchurch, he had more influence on his work than the other artists, particularly with the port paintings and the stronger, bolder colours that he used. There was also Louise Henderson. Garth Tapper was one that probably had the most influence on his portraits, caricature portraits, because Garth also did that style of art. So certainly there's clear influence there from those people. But Arthur did it in his own way. A Dagley painting really stands out as being completely unique. There is nothing quite like it. So that's the main thing with his work is that it's completely different. There is nothing that's quite the same.
How does Arthur Dagley's work rate on the art market as an investment piece?
Well, he is known on the national art scene. He's definitely known as a Tauranga artist, but his paintings have sold at auction in Auckland, Wellington, and even one in Christchurch. But he's really more a regional artist because that's where he worked from. The last ones that were auctioned in Tauranga, I think, made $4,000 or $5,000, which would be, on our current estimates, would be higher than we have on the estate collection. But he is definitely known, and there is a limited number, obviously. There's no more supply, and when this lot is gone, that's the bulk of the paintings will have been sold. I think in the long run, because he is well established and has been underrated, I think it's certainly a good one to be buying at the right price, sure.
Well, thank you very much, and all the best with the auction night.
Yeah, thank you.
We also got to chat to members of Arthur Dagley's family, his wife Betty and his daughter Raywyn. So Betty, what do you think inspired Arthur the most?
Probably the sea. He loved the sea scenes and over at the Mount.
Why have you decided to sell the artwork now?
Well, there has been, of course, when the Tauranga Gallery opened in 2007, there was a major exhibition then. So now we're working with Grant, and it's good to get the paintings out in somebody's walls rather than in storage.
How do you think that the Bay of Plenty inspired your husband?
Again, it would be the sea, the port. I think the port inspired him a lot.
Now, all this artwork must have taken a lot of room. Where did you store it?
Well, we do have a lot on the walls in the house, but also upstairs from the family home. He had his own gallery, so prior to Mum moving into it 8 years ago, that was his art gallery at home.
What is your favourite artworks?
I do have a lot of favourites, but I guess the ones that we've kept in the house, some of the figurative ones are really amusing, and some of his more sculptural work is very special too.
Betty, what is your favourite artwork of your husband's?
I like the cultural ones rather, and he was turning largely to doing more modelling in his painting, and they were interesting.
So are there any special ones that you ladies are wanting to keep?
Definitely, yes. Everything that's in the house down here and up in the studio is staying in the family.
And are there any that you're thinking that you're going to have to keep as well?
Yes, he's done some interesting ones of the girls when they were growing up, like a couple of nudes and a few like that are really special.
The public are invited to view Dagley's artworks at Bay Court prior to auction tomorrow, the 8th of June, from 10 a.m. until 5 p.m, and Sunday, the 9th of June, from 10 a.m. until 4 p.m. A third viewing session will be held on auction day, Monday, the 10th of June, from 9 a.m. until 1 p.m, with bidding due to commence at 6:30 p.m. That is the news for today and this week. We really want you to be involved, so like us on Facebook, let us know your views. If you have news including your own video and photos, go to our website and hit upload. Thanks for joining us. I will be back next week with more guests from in and around our regions. I'm Hilary Entwistle. Have a lovely evening and a fantastic weekend.
This has been an Alpha Media production, a division of Television Media Group.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.